Okay, so I want to welcome everyone to the first call in our Fall and Winter 2012 Lunch and Learn series, Lasting Impact, a conversation with Teen Foundation alumna. During today's call, we're going to hear from Sarah Rubin, a Teen Philanthropy alumni. Sarah was in the Jewish Youth Philanthropy Initiative at the Partnership for Jewish Life and Learning, and she is going to share with us how she uses her skills and the ideals that she learned in this program throughout her life. So we're going to hear her personal story about how the teen philanthropy experience influenced her personal and professional development. And this is a very exciting call because it's the first time that JTFN has hosted a conversation with alum of our programs, and we feel that the call really complements two recent impact reports that have come out in our field, put out by the Jewish Teen Foundations at the Jewish Community Federation and Endowment Fund of San Francisco, the Peninsula, Marin, and Sonoma counties, and also by the Rose Youth Foundation at the Rose Community Foundation. So thank you to those programs for kind of giving us the ideas to be talking with alumni about this work. And in order to prepare you for the new format, I just want to let you know that we're going to have a question and answer format to begin. And we encourage you to think about any questions that you may have during the beginning portion and to ask those questions on Facebook, and then we'll give an opportunity for your questions at the end after the formal question and answer part. And if for some reason you have trouble using Facebook to post those questions, you can also email me at naomi@jfunders.org. So typically I give a bio of the presenter before we begin, but today I'm going to let Sarah introduce herself. So Sarah, the floor is yours.
All right. My name is Sarah Gelman-Rubin. I grew up in Chevy Chase, Maryland, and I came from a family that was very involved in Federation, very involved in our synagogue. And then I went to Brandeis University for my undergrad, and I worked for a year out of undergrad for Jewish Funds for Justice, which is now Bend the Arc. And then I decided to go back to school to pursue a degree in nutrition at NYU Steinhardt. But beyond being a full-time grad student, I'm also a junior board member of my family's foundation, and I'm a class agent for Brandeis University, which means I do a lot of fundraising for them. And I'm also on the executive committee for Slingshot, which is a Zagat-style organization, which produces a Zagat-style guide every year of the 50 most innovative nonprofit organizations in North America. So that's kind of my background story of what I'm involved in now.
Great, Sarah. Thank you so much. Now I want to ask, what was your number one takeaway from your teen philanthropy experience, and how does it relate to your current professional and or volunteer work?
So I think my number one takeaway was that it was really a pathway for me, and it kind of set me on a path to give more on my own and kind of took me from being someone that wasn't very involved. I mean, I was in 8th grade when I did it, so I didn't know a lot about what was out there, and I didn't know how to get involved, and I kind of was not so interested in the beginning, and it kind of was it was really eye-opening for me, and it was a pathway to start giving on my own. So that was my experience.
Great. All right. So now, if you take a minute to reflect upon the Teen Foundation experience now as an adult, which moments or experiences are particularly memorable for you?
I think the actual site visits were they were really amazing learning experiences for me. And I remember one site visit in particular. We went to basically a home for developmentally disabled adults, and we were asked for a grant to give them computer equipment. And, here I was thinking, everyone has what I have at home. Like, I had a new iMac, like, the blue, like, computers, and they were, like, really great. And I had one for Hanukkah. And, I was, like, looking at all their computer equipment, and it was just, like, covered in dust. And, I just thought to myself, like, I really wish that I could do something for these people and enrich their lives in a way and give them this grant. Like, I felt like it would be so meaningful. And it was kind of those specific learning experiences that were particularly memorable for me. So.
Great. So I'm going to open up the line for a minute and just give a chance to hear from some other people. What do you think is particularly meaningful for your students in your programs right now? So we'd love to hear the experiences that you think they would share if they were asked this question. I'm going to unmute the line now and then give a chance for those who want to speak.
The conference has been unmuted.
Does anyone have anything to share about some moments they think are particularly meaningful for their team?
Hi, this is Celeste from Jewish Youth Foundation in Princeton, New Jersey.
Hi, Celeste.
We ask this question a lot to our teams, and they are very impressed by interviewing the agency representatives, because a lot of times it's the executive director or somebody who is very high up, and just being in that boardroom and seeing, so it's very similar to what Sarah said, the site visits, but actually asking that person questions, I think they remember a lot.
Great. Celeste, thanks so much for sharing that with us. It's great to hear from lots of different people's experiences. Is there anyone else who has something to share?
I would say, and it's Johanna. Hi. I would say it's the number two, because I think everybody does sort of have the same experience that Sarah did, where it's the site visits that really get them so motivated in the process, but then the really being aware of how many more things there are that could use the resources than they have resources for becomes a very compelling thing to motivate them to be engaged even more. That they haven't just sort of finished the job, in a sense.
That's great. I heard a comment like that this summer from one of the camps where someone said, we don't have enough money, but there's really no way to have enough money. There's never enough money. And that was particularly impactful to hear teams say that. So I want to give a chance for anyone else with something to share on this.
Naomi, this is Jonathan from Portland.
Hi, Jonathan.
Hi. I have a question. How many of these Teen Funders chapters sort of like raise their own funds to do allocation year after year?
So I think that we'll just hold that question. I'd love to, I think we've covered that in some other calls. I'd love to talk to you about it. I don't have like a number off the bat, but we can definitely connect about that.
And I'm just bringing it up because that is just the most. I was just going to say that is the most sort of memorable experience that our kids have is running their own benefit dinner and doing an amazing job at raising the funds to allocate. I think is most powerful for them.
Great, really, thank you for sharing that. And I think
in my situation, we had as far as JYPI, we gave half of our bat mitzvah or bar mitzvah money, and half of it was matched by the Federation, and that was incredibly powerful because it was the first time that I'd ever given away money of that amount, and it was kind of like, it was powerful having ownership of that.
Right. Can I just clarify something? It actually wasn't matched by Federation. It was matched by members in the community that the JYPI board solicited directly.
Oh, yes. I'm sorry.
Yeah. Well, no,
in my 8th grade brain, I probably thought it was Federation.
Exactly. I just wanted to clarify that for other people. I didn't want them to think that, the Federation was doing that and how come their community wasn't. That's all.
Great. Thanks for clarifying that. So thank you all for sharing. these notes, these experiences with us. Lana, how are you on the call now?
Yes, I'm so sorry.
Don't worry at all. We've gone ahead. But I'm going to put you onto the spot now. So I just want to share with everyone that Lana and Sarah actually met in the JYPI program together. And so Lana, I do want to give you a chance to share a little bit about yourself before we go forward. So can you just give us a brief bio?
Sure. So my name is Lana Volston, and I live in San Francisco. Currently, I run an organization called the 1% Foundation. I'm the executive director, and we are a national nonprofit that believes that you don't have to be wealthy to make an impact in the world. So we're a national community of young adults age 18 to 39 who make a common commitment to give at least 1% of their income to philanthropy. And we host giving circles online, where these young adults can pool their 1% together and decide collaboratively where to grant the money. And most of this is done online. In addition to that, as you probably already heard, I joined my first giving circle through JYPI when I was 12, and that was a really meaningful experience in my life. And I also serve on the board of directors of Slingshot. So did someone already explain what Slingshot is? Sorry.
Yeah, I did.
Okay, great. So that's been, also very, very meaningful for me.
Great. Thanks a lot, Lana. I'm just going to put everyone back on mute so that we don't get any background noise. Hold on one moment.
The conference has been muted.
And just again, Lana and Sarah, please press *7 so that we can hear you. Okay, so I'm going to turn the question that we were just discussing with everyone to you, Lana, and just ask you, when you reflect upon the Teen Foundation experience as an adult, which moments or experiences are particularly memorable?
Sure. I always say that there's, two huge lessons that I learned during my teen experience that completely changed the trajectory of my life, and as you can tell, my professional life also. When I participated in JYPI, 12 years old, I lived in a bubble, essentially, great family, really wonderful life, and I just had no idea that there were issues in the world. So the site visits had a really profound impact on me. It was the first time that I realized that there were, issues in the world, that people didn't have food, there were environmental issues, that there were abused children in my community, and in my school even. I could go on forever, but, the bubble burst when I realized that there are actually lots of really serious issues in the world facing lots of, regular people. And the second was the realization that I could make a difference. Not one day, not when I was quote-unquote grown up, but that day. And, through our grant making, I really saw that we could make an impact. And since that time, I've known that everyone can make a difference. And it's interesting now because, even in my adult life, most of my friends and colleagues still feel like they can't make an impact in the world. And I started realizing that I could when I was 12. And this experience is why.
Great. So we've heard from, I think, a majority of people that those site visits or experiences with an organization's representative are really part of the quintessential part of the teen philanthropy experience. So thank you all for sharing. Now I want to turn the next question first to Sarah. So since this is a JTFN call, we would love to give 100% of the credit for your philanthropic work today to your Teen Foundation experience. But to be fair to your parents and your teachers and all the other influential parts of your teen and young adult years, who or what else influenced you in becoming the philanthropist and the professionals that you guys are today? So first to Sarah.
I think first and foremost I have to say that my parents have been really inspiring to me on a number of levels, not just in their Jewish philanthropy work, but also in the work that they've done in their community. just an example, my mom actually has been really involved in the Maryland for Marriage Equality Act because my brother is gay, and she, was really so involved and so outspoken, and it's things like that like make me feel so proud to be part of my family, and so just being around that my whole life has been so inspiring to me. Not just to be involved through giving monetarily, but also to be involved with your time and volunteering, which is so important as well, has been really inspiring. And I think that, I think my parents have just definitely been huge role models for me. And also, my grandfather was, when he was alive, was really, really involved in his community, and I saw philanthropy and giving back to the community as something that my family did. It was just like part of everyday life, and I think being around that has pushed me to want to do the same.
Great. Thanks so much for sharing that. And Lana, I want to turn the question to you also about who influenced you.
I also have to say, definitely my parents. I still look up to my parents. They're just the most generous, kind people that I know, and I feel so lucky to have had that, to have had them setting an example for me. Since as long as I can remember, we were volunteering. My parents, set up a foundation. We always had people staying with us, living in our house, just helping everyone that they could, without even thinking twice about it. They set a pretty extraordinary example for me, and I do think, leading by doing is pretty important, especially in this case when, kids are looking up to their parents and seeing, how generous they are and how happy that makes them. This is more than just, I help people because I want to help people. It also makes me feel really good. It makes me feel really happy. So definitely learned that from my parents and still learning that from my parents.
Great. So a question that came in that's off the script is, did the JYPI program, if you remember, did they include your parents in any of the programming?
I don't think so. I think our parents joined for part of the first meeting, and that was it. What was really cool about JYPI was in the allocations meeting, even the facilitators stepped out. So it was very much just the teen group. Sarah, is that what you remember?
Yeah, I think other than forcing me to do it in the beginning, which they definitely did, they kind of took a back seat, which was a good thing in the long run.
Great. So they set an example in both cases from the home, but this experience was your thing with your friends.
Yeah, totally.
All right. So Lana and Sarah, today you're both involved in the Slingshot Fund, and Lana, your professional work is also in philanthropy, as we heard. So can you tell us about any philanthropic involvement that you had in the interim years between graduating from JYPI and beginning your current involvements? For example, were there any opportunities to be involved in philanthropy in your college experience? And Sarah, I'll throw that to you first.
Yeah, I would say that in the years between my involvement with JYPI and my more recent work, I started to give through a grandchildren's fund that my grandfather set up. But the truth is that I was really trying to figure out what exactly my giving was going to look like afterwards, and it was really like a transition time for me. And even though I was involved with volunteer stuff through the sorority that I was involved in college, I wasn't doing so much philanthropy through my school. but, after college, during college, I interned for the Foundation for Jewish Camping and also for Jewish Funds for Justice, which is where I ended up working. So it was kind of always on my radar, and I think that I was kind of questioning what my role was going to be as an adult. And I think that's something that, it's something that most people in college go through, regardless of whether they're involved in philanthropy. But I think that it kind of took on a deeper meaning for me.
Great. And Lana, what about you?
Pretty similar. I think I spent some time volunteering during college, but it's funny. I was so passionate about the philanthropy work before college, and then I became so passionate about it after college. And there was definitely a gap during college, and maybe that's because I just didn't really have very much money. But what I did do is there were tons of volunteer opportunities during college, which I think were super meaningful, especially in figuring out, what causes I was passionate about and how that was changing as I was growing up. The second is I ended up getting a master's certificate in nonprofit management, so I knew that something in the nonprofit field, would be important to me and was important to me, so I took some of those courses, which was pretty meaningful, but we didn't have any, specifically philanthropy courses. I will say a really cool program I participated in I went to Washington University in St. Louis. I think it was called the Taylor Community Consulting Program, and it was a partnership between Washington University and Deloitte Consulting, and we actually had to apply to participate in the program for business school students, and we got to work on consulting projects for local St. Louis nonprofits. And I actually participated in that program all 4 years of college and ended up working for Deloitte Consulting after college, largely due to that partnership. But that was really, really cool opportunity for me to help nonprofits in a different way, in sort of a skills-based way, when I didn't have much money to give. But during college was also when I first started learning about Slingshot. And obviously I came to become very involved and very passionate about Slingshot, but that also started in college, and that would be a good opportunity for college students also.
Great. So if anyone else knows of any other college-age opportunities, feel free to share them on that Facebook page. Thank you both. And also, just as we're moving along, if anyone has questions for Sarah or Lana, I hope you'll also share them there, or you can email them to me at naomi@jfunders.org. So my next question is, what concrete pieces of advice would you give to teen philanthropy program leaders and those interested in teaching teens about philanthropy? And I'll let Sarah take that first.
I think what Lana and I both mentioned is that we really were given the opportunity to take ownership of our experience in JYPI and really step up to the plate on our own and have our own responsibilities. And I think that's the one piece of advice I would give to people that are youth program leaders and philanthropy leaders. I think that teens really want to be treated like adults. And the more that you do that and the more that you give them those responsibilities, the more involved they'll want to be.
That's a really great piece of advice. I think a lot of programs follow that. And what about you, Lana? What advice do you have for all of us?
One thing that I think was really special about JYPI was after the program, there were other opportunities to remain involved. So Sarah and I participated as 8th graders, and then I participated again when I was in 10th grade. There was a 10th to 12th grade program, and then I was invited to join the teen board. There were also opportunities where JYPI alumni could go to their synagogue and help lead a workshop about, collective giving and philanthropy. And now they have a program called JYPI 201 that empowers seniors in high school to, do a similar collaborative grant-making program, but they actually go out and find, the organizations and do the research on their own. So, it wasn't just that I participated and then it ended. I think it's really important to give opportunities for, enhanced leadership development, and, give the teams an opportunity to stay involved and to feel a sense of ownership over some aspects. Because I think, the program was amazing, but what kept me interested and engaged were the follow-ups.
Great. So I think those are two really important tips. So we've heard that about the importance of being treated like adults and having real responsibility, and also the importance of some type of extended or maybe multi-year commitment or opportunity. That second piece of advice that we heard from Lana actually is also evident in the Rose Youth Foundation's impact report that was put out, I guess, within the last year, which says the same thing, that the multi-year experience really does make a difference. So thanks to you both for backing that up. So the last question that I have for both of you, and then we will turn our questions to our audience for comments or questions, is where do you see yourself in your philanthropy work 5 or 10 years from now? Sarah, you can start with that.
That's tough. I think that certainly one of the issues that I'm starting to grapple with more now is that I just got married in August, so I'm really thinking about starting to give as a couple rather than just one person. And I think that if I could see myself like 5 or 10 years from now, I'd really like to start thinking about, starting my own foundation or, getting more involved in the New York community, which is where I live now, and just, putting down roots somewhere Jewishly and also philanthropically. So I think that's what I would say.
Great. So we've kind of talked about how we enter into different life stages. You guys had this great experience as teens, and then in college, maybe there weren't the same type of experiences, or you didn't find them. I think there may be even more today in the college experience. And now you're entering into a new phase about maybe giving with a partner. So it's interesting to think about kind of the life journey that your teens have after they leave your program. And I also want to give Lana a chance to answer that question. Where do you see yourself in your philanthropy work 5 to 10 years from now?
That's a hard question. I definitely see myself still working professionally in the field. It's something I'm super passionate about, especially the idea that every single person can make a difference, and you guys have already heard me say that. But, hopefully in 5 to 10 years, my organization will be a huge success, and anyone will be able to participate in giving circles. So we're basically taking the concept online to enable anyone the opportunity to create or join a giving circle online. So hopefully that will enable many people, especially young people, to get involved in philanthropy. In terms of my personal giving, I think, I've become more and more involved in my family's foundation over the years, and I hope to continue to become more involved. And I'm really excited to see how my personal giving develops. As I've said, what I care about has changed so drastically over the years, and it's just been a fascinating thing to keep up with, and to keep on checking in with how are my values changing, how are my passions changing. And I'm really excited to continue to be involved and to see where all this stuff goes.
I think that we're all excited to see that also, and to continue to hear from alumni of our programs about where they go as they continue to get to grow beyond their teen years. I also want to point out that something Lana said, which is that, or something we see from Lana as an example, which is that she's used a lot of the leadership skills and the skills she learned in the Teen Foundation. I mean, she's using that in her professional work. We also saw that in the research from the Jewish Teen Foundation's impact report. That's part of the Jewish Community Federation and Endowment Fund in San Francisco, Marin, and Sonoma counties. I hope I got that right because it's long. And so we saw from that report that 83% of participants in their program say that they apply the leadership skills they learned in the program to other endeavors. So we see that in Lana's professional work also. It was really great to hear from both Lana and Sarah with all of these questions that we've prepared for them. I hope that some of you have some questions to ask or comments to make about the things that you heard today based on your experiences. So I'm actually going to encourage you to either email me at naomi@jfunders.org or to post those questions on Facebook. And I'm also going to open up the line because I think it was nice to hear from some people before if you prefer to ask your question that way. So hang on a minute.
The conference has been unmuted.
All right, you're all unmuted. So bring on the questions for Lana or Sarah or both of them.
Question here, Mark Megabo from Boulder, Colorado.
Hi.
We have, first of all, Sarah and Lana, thank you very much. It's very inspiring to hear. We don't have a philanthropy program yet. We are launching one probably in January. Boulder, we have very active teens. Some people would call them overprogrammed. So we don't have a problem getting in touch with them, but inspiring them to. My question is, what would be, the one thing, the most important thing that we could do in starting out new to inspire them to join us on this new journey in, competing with all the other things that they have attracting them?
Do one of you want to take that? Let's hear that question one more time.
Yeah.
We're starting out new, and so we feel like our kids are already overprogrammed. So what do you think would be one of the most attractive things? What should we be starting with? What's like the number one hook, you might say, that would actually get them to choose this over all the things they're already doing?
It's a rough question.
I think the prospect of being able to give away money is pretty attractive, especially for teams. Like, I contributed money, but we were lucky enough to have local philanthropists who matched the money that we contributed. So in the end of it, when the money was pulled together, it was so much more, $5,000, I think, or $10,000. It was so much more money than I could even sort of comprehend. Like, at that age, I remember a relative came into town and gave me a $100 bill, and I thought he was the richest person in the world. I mean, maybe things are different now, but that's how I felt when I was 12. And, the prospect of being able to give away money is a pretty important one. And being given that type of responsibility is, pretty cool. Pretty cool for a teen. I don't think they're going to choose a philanthropy program over, hanging out with their friends, but, there does have to be a balance, and I think, in the JYPI program we were meeting once a month on Sundays, so it wasn't, the roughest time commitment.
Thank you.
Yeah, I think the point about the real money, real impact really does help. And I think it's interesting to point out that if that teens really want to be with their friends, there was actually just a report from DoSomething.org that showed exactly that basically teens will do things with their friends. So targeting groups of friends in your recruitment can also be helpful. If you get one person's buy-in, one teen's buy-in, and have them bring their friends, they'll want to keep coming back because they want to hang out with those friends in lots of different programmatic settings.
That's definitely true. I mean, I think that, Lana and I wouldn't have been involved in any of the alumni stuff with JYPI if we hadn't become friends as a result of the program. But it definitely makes it easier when you're with a peer group of people that you know. So
great.
Awesome feedback. Thank you.
Thank you. Do we have any other questions? I saw a comment on Facebook. Oh, yes?
This is Daniel. I know that Lana you referenced that you have a Giving Circle program that's online. Curious to what extent, if any, you have the ability to share the resources with JTFN or those of us in the field. Obviously, I think that there's a synergy in terms of having people participate in programs and then point them in a direction as or during the program to continue along the lines of things that you guys have been doing. So I was just curious if you have the ability to share resources with JTFN so that we can all move each other forward.
Yeah, so this is actually really exciting. We're launching our new website in January, mid-January. So at that time, all of our, online platforms and all of our educational curriculum stuff, everything will be available to the public in January. So, I'm already in touch with JTFN, and I am, very excited to share that information with everybody. So, that's all going to be there, and all the educational resources will be free to use and reference. Right now we're in private beta, but in mid-January that'll be available.
Thanks in advance.
Great. Thanks, Daniel. So we actually have a question on Facebook from Arnie Dreamin. The question is, what about nice organizations which are not efficient or effective users of sacred tzedakah money? Do you teach about budgets, overhead, and financials? So I think that we'll reform that question. So, Lon and Sarah, do you remember learning about those things? And then we can also have maybe some other folks step in.
I definitely remember learning about that. I don't think I was as familiar with financials as I am now in my adult life, but I do remember grilling organizations on their budget as a teen. And, I don't think I mentioned, but after I graduated from college, I moved back to Northern Virginia, to D.C., and I actually participated as a facilitator for the JYPI program in Northern Virginia. So I participated when I was a teen, and then I came back and was a volunteer facilitator as an adult. And I have to tell you, the teens blew me away, and the questions they asked, honestly, they were asking more difficult questions than my adult members ask as members of the 1% Foundation. It was pretty exciting. Maybe they don't have a sophisticated understanding of full budgets, but when they were looking at the budget of a specific project, the questions they asked just blew me away. And as part of our program, we did learn a bit about financials, but I think that should be a part of everyone's programs, at least to a small extent.
Great. Thanks for that. Does anybody else want to comment on to what extent or what do you teach your teens about budgets and finances and looking at those of the organization?
Well, this is Leah. Hi, Lana and Sarah. One thing that I know we've used a bunch of times from Learning to Give has a nonprofit budget activity that just puts in some of the different categories, and the teens get an amount, and you have to figure out why do you need this much to cover salaries and things like that, so that then when you're actually looking at a real budget, they have a better idea of where the money is coming from. Because I think one of the hardest things about learning about the financial piece is their concept of money is very different than ours as adults. And so I think that helping them see more realistically, why every single piece for a seniors exercise program, why every yoga mat can't just be donated, I think is also a big piece that comes up is the donations versus getting what a program actually needs. Has been an interesting one. But I think about the nice organizations, I think they're just as I think the teens, like what Lana was saying, I think the teens are just as cut straight to the point, and just because it's nice, I mean, we've seen lots of organizations come through that, from the surface you'd think they will definitely probably get the money because it just seems like the right kind of topic for teens, and, the presenters can't make a good enough case or explain things that don't make sense in the budget, and the teens cut the program and decide not to fund them.
sounds like some really good educational tools for helping teens understand this. Thanks, Leah. We have a question from Gilad. Gilad says he's interested to hear your approach, Lana and Sarah, to giving to Jewish versus secular organizations, and what impact do you think your participation in the Youth Philanthropy Program had on that approach?
I think that being involved in the Youth Philanthropy Program definitely put me on to giving more Jewishly. But I can't say that it was completely because of that, because honestly, my family gives a lot Jewishly, and I've always seen that as a really important way to give. Not that it's the only way that I give, but I think that, like, I would say probably 75% of my philanthropic giving goes to specifically Jewish organizations. I don't know if I answered that very well, but...
No, that's great. Thank you. That was Sarah, right?
Yes.
Okay, Lana, do you have any thoughts on that?
Yeah, so I think for me, philanthropy is like what makes me feel Jewish. That might sound strange, but Tikkun Olam, tzedakah, repair the world, all the stuff that I learned in Hebrew school through JYPI, like when I am involved in philanthropy, I feel like I'm being Jewish. And, that's a really interesting thing for me because I'm not particularly religious, but, helping people, doing good, and giving is what makes me feel Jewish. And, that's a very strong Jewish value for me. So, I've taken that my professional work is secular, and most of my personal giving, all of it is Jewish. And I actually, I made the decision to professionally work in the secular field because I think that everyone should hold these values, and I don't feel like they do. But even in doing my secular work, I feel Jewish while doing it. Like, I do it because that is a Jewish value, and it's really important to me. So I do think JYPI and my, Judaic school experience really, really ingrained that into me, and also my parents, of course.
Great. So our programs are helping teach that giving is a Jewish value. You had a great quote there, Lana, that I think is on Facebook now for eternity. All right. Do we have any other questions for Lana and Sarah? We have time for probably one or two more before we have to wrap up today. And are there any comments on anything that our two presenters said, anything you may feel the same or differently about, or you've seen work or not work in your program?
This is Johanna. I just want to say thank you to Sarah and Lara for presenting our JYPI program so well to everybody else.
And what's your role there?
I'm the Chief Operating Officer at the Partnership for Jewish Life and Learning, the one in Washington, not New Jersey. And so I supervise the Youth Philanthropy Program now.
Great. Thanks a lot.
I have another question from here in Boulder, if you don't mind.
Terrific.
What do you think the importance of the teens raising their own money, contributing their own money, versus us going out and finding grant money? Again, we're in a startup situation to get that first pool. Do you think there's any negative impact by us going out and finding them some money to start off?
Great. So, Lana or Sarah, do one of you want to take that?
This is Lana. I know that different programs do this different ways. I personally think, if you have a little skin in the game in any situation, whether you're a teen or an adult, that, the buy-in is much greater than the engagement. The experience ends up being much greater. So I personally think that at least some contribution from the teens or whether that's raising or giving, from their bar mitzvah. I think that's really important. It could even be a portion, like it was for JYPI, of the money we ended up granting. So if you raise some, still requiring some amount of money from the teams, I think that's important to have some skin in the game, but I know there are some really great programs that don't do that.
Great.
You're saying that there are programs where the kids aren't contributing any of their own funds?
I think there are.
Oh, okay.
I mean, Naomi would know better than me.
I assume that the goal is to get the kids doing as much as possible on their own.
That's not always the goal.
No, okay.
There's definitely a variety in the field. We're actually having a call. Our next call, which is in December, is kind of about giving. Now I'm thinking about whether we asked that question to folks, and I'm not sure that we did, but at least anecdotally, not numbers-wise, I know that there is a variety in programs that some which do straight fundraising, some which give teens all of the money that they're going to grant, and then probably the majority in the middle where it's some mix of money that comes from an adult funder and some money that comes from the teens, either through fundraising or through contributions of program fees. So there's definitely a big spectrum.
The matching sounds like a great program if you can find donors to do that, because then it kind of encourages both sides.
That sounds like it's a good mix of both. I would love, I'm always available to talk to people to kind of tease out what is going to work in your community, because there's definitely a variety of options out there, and also to connect programs, especially ones like the one in Boulder that's starting now with other programs, to kind of hear about the different ways they've done things. So I encourage anyone who's interested in having part of this discussion about, how to structure a program in terms of what the contribution is, where you get that grant-making pool from, or any other pieces of the conversation that we kind of heard about today. As you think about your own programs, definitely feel free to reach out to me. And I just want to I guess we have only a couple more minutes, so I want to give a chance if there's one last question, and if not, we're going to sum up. Anything else? All right. So I really want to thank you all for participating in today's call. A huge thank you to Lana and Sarah for sharing your experiences with us. It's really great to hear what a teen philanthropy participant looks like some years down the road, and to hear all the great things that you both have accomplished. We look forward to continuing to hear about your great work. I also want to give a thank you to everyone who participated in the conversation on Facebook. And like I said before, we hope that you'll all keep the conversation about teen philanthropy going on Facebook, even when we're not on the phone with you. So share whatever you notice in the field, or things that are related to working with teens. We hope that you'll share them on the JTFN Facebook page. And as I mentioned before, in December 13th, we're going to have our next Lunch and Learn call titled Where Does the Money Go? A Look at Trends in Teen Foundations Giving. And we're going to take a look at where all the collective grants that your teens give actually go to, and we did a survey of the field to get that information. This is, I believe, the fourth year that we've been looking at that research, so it should be an interesting conversation. So before we hang up, I just want to give everyone a chance to thank Lana and Sarah and to say goodbye to one another. So thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank you.